Welcome on Easy Learning. Now today I am going to start a new chapter. This is I Passed the Delhi Test written by S.M. Gavaskar. In this part of the video, I'll read the chapter, and in the other parts of the videos, the next part of the videos, I will explain about Sunil Manohar Gavaskar, and the rest parts of the videos, I will explain the chapter. So let's start without wasting the time. I Passed the Delhi Test by S.M. Gavaskar. Sunil Manohar Gavaskar, born in 10 July 1949, the legendary Indian opening batsman, is also a renowned TV commentator and prolific writer. In addition to numerous write-ups in leading journals, he has authored 3 best-selling books: Sunny Days 1976, Idols 1983, and Runs and Ruins 1981. Born and brought up in Bombay, where he attended St. Xavier's High School and College, the Little Master is the first batsman in Test cricket to have surpassed Don Bradman's world record of 29 Test centuries. By the time he retired from the Test cricket, he had made 34 Test centuries in 125 Test matches, setting a new world record. Though this record has been broken by another legendary Indian batsman Sachin Tendulkar, but the fact remains that most of Gavaskar's hundreds were scored as an opener, facing all the fury of the new ball, a feat not achieved by anyone in Test cricket till date. In the present extract taken from Runs and Ruins, Gavaskar recounts his experiences when he was going through a lean patch of his career and how people and he himself had lost faith in his ability. The extract is a wonderful example of how failure can be the pillars of success, provided one has the determination to do so. I passed the Delhi test. We had another 2 days in practice in Delhi before the second test began. On the eve of the test, my second book, Idols, was released by Kapil Dev, the Indian skipper, with Clive Lloyd as chief guest. Michael Holdings and Jeff Duzon honored the functions by their presence. There were plenty of pressmen around and the atmosphere was very cordial. Within hours, the battle was to be resumed, so we went back to the hotel to rest. There was little of rest, however, since my wife's friend from college days, Bijoya, dropped in to see her. As they were meeting each other after 7 or 8 years, they had a lot of news and gossip to exchange, and then during the evening, Bijoya's sisters and brother dropped in with their spouses, with the result that there was almost an impromptu party in our little room. This was the first time I missed the privilege of being the captain, because a skipper gets a suit and is able to look after his guests better. Most hotels where we stayed and the local cricket associations were kind enough to give me a room to myself. Though in a home series only the skipper is entitled to one, and if a vice captain is named, then he also gets a single room. Bijoya and her sisters left around midnight, but with Bijoya warning me that I had better do well the next day, as that was going to be her first day at a test match. Earlier in the evening, as we had returned from the Idols release function, I was accosted by some young girls who had asked me to score the fastest century of my career the next day. I remember laughing at that because I would have been happy to score even half that much in the game. So low was my confidence at that stage. I was certainly not helped by the derisive comments passed earlier in the day by part of the crowd which had come to watch us practice. I even picked up a person from the crowd who had said something nasty and had an exchange of words with him. I left the nets early and sat in the dressing room, having informed Kapil that rather than pick up a fight with the crowd, it would be better for me to be inside. Apparently, Kapil did not like the fact that I had left the nets, though at that moment he did not say anything. My intention was quite simply to try and keep cool and be relaxed then get upset by the taunts of the crowd. Crowds all over India are basically the same and are particularly adept at kicking a man when he is down. Next morning, I woke up earlier than usual and saw that a few messages had been shoved under the door, along with the newspapers. A couple of messages meant a lot, and so when I went to the ground, I was feeling relaxed and completely at ease. After our customary warm up exercises, a ritual that is absolutely necessary in today's age of almost non stop international cricket, we went back to our dressing room. The manager was Dilip's Sar Desai, a jovial person, and he was joking with us when Kapil walked in with a huge grin, saying that he had won the toss at last and that he would be batting. With those words, the familiar tightening of the stomach muscles took place, and the feeling that another test match was to begin came on. Irrespective of how many years of how many tests one has played, the nervous tension never seems to vanish. Actually, it is a good thing because it shows that one cares about one's performance and the tension makes one that much keener. I had planned how I was going to tackle the bowling, so when Anshuman and I walked out to bat, I was feeling relaxed. The Delhi wicket is normally a beautiful batting track, though it helps seam bowling initially. But this morning the bowlers got no help. In any case, the West Indians are not quick in the air to swing the ball. They do make the ball move after pitching, which is even more difficult. Marshall's third ball saw me off the mark with a couple of runs past point. That was another hurdle passed. No batsman likes to score a duck. When one scores a run to open one's account, there is great relief that one is not going to be an utter failure, which a zero signifies. There was a bouncer in the over and I hooked it, which brought a frown on the bowler's face, followed by a cunning smile. I smiled back to say, right, today you bounce and I am going to hook. In the next over, I got a quicker bouncer, which I tapped rather than hooked for a boundary, and I knew that then that it was going to be my day. Every time Marshall bounced, I hooked. There were two alarms, one physical and the other which almost cut short my tenure. When I was 16, a bouncer came screaming at my face and I missed my shot. But luckily the ball brushed my hat and went through Dodgen's gloves. The umpire did not signal anything, so runs were added against my name, though I had actually not nicked that ball. Perhaps the umpire was misled by the sound of the ball brushing my cap, and though that meant that a chance would be registered against my name. I was not complaining, for I got some runs, and every run in tests counts. The second alarm came when I hit the ball off the middle, but it went at height where Roger, Harper, or Joel Garner could have leapt and caught the ball. Fortunately, the fielder was not as tall as these two, and so I got 6 runs instead. I was enjoying myself because the ball was coming through nicely and one could play shots without worrying about movements of the wicket. So there were drives and even the odd square drive in this innings. I had a good bat too. So the ball went off like an obedient thing when told to do so. I had no clue that I had passed 50 because there were seemingly no applause. I found out later that I had got it with a shot for a boundary, and so the applause had mingled. I don't look at the scoreboard or the clock when I am batting. It surprises many people, but that's the absolute truth. It is not superstition, but because I feel under less tension and I am more relaxed like this than if I was aware I was close to a century. When one is near a century and knows it, then there is the possibility of being hasty and impatient and losing one's wicket. After all, I have always believed that a century should be just a milestone in one's quest for more runs. Thus, when I flicked a ball from Marshall past mid-on and it went off for a boundary, I was surprised when Gasker stopped in the middle and said, "Well played," and thrust his hand out. He must have known by the expression on my face that I did not know my score because he said, "Bloody hell, it's your 29th." Jeff Dawson and Viv Richards were there to pump my hand and offer their congratulations, and Clive Lawlight was making his way from the first slip to offer his hand. I just shook my head in wonder because in my mind I thought I was in the 80s and there I was already past a century. It was a benumbing moment. Ever since my return from the West Indies, people were eager for me to score the 29th century, and so, whether it was a plane, taxi, office, hotel, lobby, or restaurant, strangers would walk up and offer their good wishes for me to score that 100. Much as I appreciated their sentiments, the cry, "We want your 29th," was becoming a little strident to the ears. It was therefore a great relief to get that century and see the delight on the face of my countrymen. They had waited for it patiently, prayed for it, and probably had tensions in their lives when I was struggling for it. There is simply no way I can express my gratitude to the Indian cricket lovers for the way they had supported, encouraged, and at times chided me during my career. I imagine the only thing I can do to repay their loving concern is to try and score as many runs as I can before Test cricket is finished with me. The rest of the innings is more of a blur because I played as if in a day's end. It was no surprise when Larry Gomes knocked me off a stump back as I played forward and missed the ball. My century had come in 94 balls, I was informed. And I was surprised because I do not think I have ever played so many shots to get a century. Most of my centuries have a liberal sprinkling of ones and twos and take their time coming, and this was definitely the quickest in terms of time as well as deliveries faced. Yet it is not my best test century. My best test century was the one scored in the first test at Old Trafford in 1974. There, the conditions were against batting, and I had not scored a Test century for 3.5 years. In fact, the last one I had scored was during my debut series in the West Indies in 1971, so there were doubts in my mind then about my ability to score runs. That knock in Manchester was an important point in my career and gave a new lease to my cricketing life.